Saturday, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of TEDxMellenStreet Live. This is where we come to you and we bring our speakers. It's going to be on a TEDxMellenStreet event happening on November the 18th at the Historic American Theater in Hampton, Virginia. I am your host and event curator, Sacha Walton, and I have another special guest with me today, and her name is Dr. Shanea Thomas. And I'm not going to get into everything that she does because I want her to tell you that. But first off, before I bring her on, I want to say thank you to my sponsor, Tanya Fields, who is the founder of Connected Compass, where they're doing extraordinary work in the STEM community for minority men and women. So thank you, Tanya, for everything you're doing in that field. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and bring up Dr. Shanea Thomas, and say, hey, how are you today?
I'm good. It's a Saturday morning. I am here.
But thank you for being here. It's a pleasure having you here. And it's a pleasure having you on the upcoming stage for TEDx in November. How are you feeling about it?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I have been teaching for a very long time, and I've always used TED Talks as like the basis for like either I'm talking about intersectionality or sexuality or anything like that. And so to now realize that I might be one of those people is really mind blowing. I will say that this is a goal or a bucket list of mine. So I'm checking something off. So I'm very excited to have this opportunity. So thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. I'm excited for everyone. I don't know how many times like people who are doing these events, if they could ever look and say, oh, you know what? Not just be excited for doing the event, but excited for the people. And I'm a people person. So I'm just like, oh, yes, they're going to love it, and everything. So I just try to make sure that everything is going to go smooth. Yeah. So that way you guys can be just blessed and uplifted and everything and skyrocket from there. Yeah. And so there's one question that I always ask everyone when they come on this show. And I want you to tell all the watchers, all the listeners, everybody out there in the world, who is Dr. Shanea Thomas?
Ooh, and that's always hard to ask because it depends on the day. I will say, and maybe I'll start here because it's in Hampton and I'm from Hampton. So I am a Hampton, Virginia native. My parents still there. A lot of my really great childhood friends still there, live there. I'm originally from Hampton, Virginia. I have one brother. Right now I have one young kid who's 5 years old. But in general, I identify as a Black queer non-binary person. So I am somebody that moves through this earth of just like, don't feel like a woman and I don't feel like a man, but that gives me this like beautiful gray area to like live in between, and how that has like kind of played into the trajectory of my career of, when I left Hampton, went to Virginia Tech, and eventually went to Howard University to become a social worker. I realized that there was an opportunity to service LGBTQ folks in ways that they weren't being serviced, especially as social workers. That kind of started my career around doing teaching, speaking, workshops, and it's kind of taken off from there. So I will say that I am a human sexuality educator. I'm a therapist. I have a private practice within the DMV area currently right now. And I'm the LGBTQ training specialist and assistant clinical research professor at the University of Maryland. So I do a little bit of everything, but I will say that I am that like young Black girl that went to Bethel High School, that ran track. That girl has never left, but she has just evolved into a whole other person that does a lot of great community work and really cares about her people. I really do care about the well-being and the educating of folks in order for them to live their best lives. So yeah, lots of layers, but still that track girl from Bethel High School.
Still that track girl from Bethel High School. And you did that. That was, I'm sitting here like, ooh, how is she getting this all out in one breath? It's like, you have the world going on. But it's a good world that's going on in your life and that you're bringing out to society and everything. And so, the theme for the event, right, is power of inclusion. So with your scope of work and the communities that you're working in, how important is it for that power of inclusion to be within a society when you're thinking about your community and the people that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be paramount, and not even a thought, but it has to be a foundation to the work that we're doing. I think the thing that I am seeing in DEI land is that, oh, we just got to get more X, Y, and Z in here, right? We just got to get more people, and that's it. But I think for me, particularly as a practitioner working with different communities, it's not just about adding the folks, but I think I hear the phrase now. It's just like you have to have a seat at the table. But my thing is like, well, yeah, but I also want the table to be set before I get there, right? So how are we preparing people, inclusive people, diverse people, inequity, disability folks, whomever, how are we preparing them to be at the table before we even get there? Because if people can't fit at the table, or we don't have gluten-free options at the table, or we don't have a ramp to get to the table, then those people aren't included, right? So I think for me, inclusion is not just about adding more folks to the pot, but it's about how we all are thinking about our particular place with at that table. So that's what it means to me.
Wow. I love how you just switched it up because, like you said, everybody's always saying, oh, yeah, I want a seat at the table, or I'll bring my own table, or, it's all these things. But
Right.
it's that preparation. It's like when you think about the etiquette and you say, okay, if you're going to sit down at the dinner table, you love for it to be, especially going to a fancy restaurant, it's already prepared for you. It's already saying, okay, I have the cup, I have the fork set, I have the plates, everything else. And you can sit there and just be served. And so when you're looking at it from that scope and that analogy, it does make so much sense because a lot of times people or organizations, they think they're ready, but yet they're not. And
Not
when you said to add more people, and it's okay, what are you adding? You don't even have a pot to even hold them in,
right.
and capacity to even understand how to navigate, how to work with them, and so forth. Then you're just adding them, and it's just in limbo.
Yeah,
So
and just not
yeah.
thinking about it, right? And I think that's also the responsibility of us of just like looking at the table also and saying like, well, who's missing, right? Like who else do we need to bring here? Because I'm here, right? I'm glad that with all my identities, I'm at the table. But if I look to see that there's somebody that there's a population not represented, it's also my responsibility as a table person to make sure that that spot gets filled as well. So,
Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's awesome. As a table person. Wow.
yeah.
Okay. You just ranking all the nuggets. All right. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I haven't eaten yet. So it's like you're talking about the table. I'm like, okay, we got waiters, we got
I'm
waitresses, you got the table person. But I mean, that's so true because when you think about when you're being served, you're being waited on. When these people come, they're coming with the anticipation that they still are prepared to help you in what your needs are.
Mhm.
And of course you come hungry, your need is to eat. But when you think about organizations like that and they're filling in these areas and that need is to grow, that to grow their organization, to show that they are diverse, to show that they're providing equity or equality and the diversification and everything and inclusion. But then also it's like you have to take it deeper. You have to take it another level. You
Right.
know, so it's like, okay, we got them in. What are you going to do? How are we going to help them? How are we going to serve them? How are we going to wait on them? So
Yeah.
that way you feel comfortable. So how did this become like such a passion for you?
Mm. Like I said, like I feel like it was, and I don't feel like social workers nor clinicians will probably admit this, but I was also growing and evolving as a person as I was doing this work. So I came out as queer when I was in grad school, and I was working in a high school with kids in DC. And I was just realizing that things in my life needed to change, how I related to people who I was in relationship with. And I didn't have a lot of resources then either. That was 20 years ago. And so 20 years ago, that was an opportunity to where I didn't really know where to go and who to get support around. So I think the thing that ended up happening was I became that person. Nobody was talking to the kids about their sexual health or their sexuality. So I became that person. I didn't know who was teaching or doing workshops or focusing on this. So I became that person. So I think I just became the person to fill in the gap. To be able to support people who were like me. And luckily, thank goodness, along the way, as the table was being built, I was able to find folks to be able to support folks who are either in my experience, kids who are in the experience. And so I've just grown to have a fantastic network of people who I can just call on now, where if I need help, that's great. But if my kids need help, that's great too. And so I think for me, it became a personal passion of how do I grow and evolve as a person where I am in a world that's very like opposed to LGBTQ folk, but also like, how can I also be that safe space to kids who are coming out and realizing who they are, and adults now, because I also see adults as clients as well. But how can I just continue to make safe spaces in a world, especially when we're talking about policies and laws that are happening now? It just became a personal passion and a need. And then it just eventually grew into a career.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And when you think about it, there is so many layers to even unpacking that what you just said, because it is one of those things where it's a hot topic. What you're in is a hot topic. The people, everything, and a lot of times there are a lot of people who don't understand or who don't want to understand. And so it's like for you to be in that position to say, you know what, I'm here. I went through it. I'm going through it. You were evolving, but it's like, okay, who is going to be there for everyone else who are going through the same thing, especially if they're young people who still, they're still confused. They still don't know. Like they're like, okay, do I want to come out? Do I not want to come out? Do I want to embrace it, or I am going to embrace it? But what is my family and friends going to feel? Or all those different thoughts that come around.
Yeah.
So you've become that safe place, and and that's really good because it is needed. No matter what people agree with, what they don't agree with, at the end of the day, we're all still people, and people still need people.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we still need each other, and there's so many differences. There's so many misunderstandings. There's so many things that people can't really get across that line.
Right.
And it leaves the other group feeling like, okay, I'm so left out. I don't know. That takes them deeper into, whatever it is they can experience.
Yeah.
And so thank you for being that person, being there for them and everything. Yeah. So I know you have some great things going on. We know that you're about to be a TEDx speaker officially on November the 18th. And so you have that upcoming event. And then you're also a board member of, is it the AIDS Memorial?
Yes, the National AIDS Memorial. So most people, if you're familiar with the big AIDS quilt that has been around for more than 2 decades, I believe at this point, our organization also has scholarship funds and also support artists and people who are doing this work. So yeah, I'm excited to start like on the ground running with that organization, doing some really great work, particularly with youth and helping to build more quilts and more panels for quilts. So I'm excited about that. Right now, I'm also working on a book. I'm taking my dissertation that's around burnout, around queer and trans folks and peer support spaces. And I'm creating a book, an academic book for that. So I'm really excited. And right now, as the LGBTQ specialist at Maryland, I'm creating a bunch of trainings in order to help clinicians and practitioners and organizational folks, so people who are also in higher level positions, to able to be more competent in LGBTQ work. So yeah, I'm excited. Lots of things in the pot. And I have a 5-year-old that is also here. But yes, I do a lot, but it's for the good of the people. So I'm excited about all that.
That's awesome. And your 4-year-old said, we can't forget about me because I'm a part of your life too. And
yeah, number one.
Make sure you hear me.
Number one.
That's wonderful. That's so great. And once again, everybody, you can come to TEDxMellenStreet event at the Historic American Theater on November the 18th. Dr. Shanea Thomas, and I did it. Remember, I said, I don't know why I want to say Thomas. So, okay. Oh my gosh, Dr. Shanea Thomas. And a host of other, we have like 19 speakers. And so she is one of them, and going to bring so many different hot topics around, the power of inclusion, which is our theme. And once again, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Tanya Fields of Connected Compass, who is doing great work in the STEM community. And so, so we're so excited about what you're going to bring, Dr. Shanea Thomas, and on November the 18th. So before we go, I want to say, if you want to, I'm going to give you the opportunity to give like final words of wisdom to everyone who's out there watching.
Yeah, I won't take long, but I hope somebody took something from that table analogy that I said. Like I said, I know we all want a seat at the table, and that's great. But for one, for the people who are preparing the table, make sure that everybody can get to the table first. So is everything accessible? Is everything equitable? Do we make sure that we have enough gluten-free options for the people who want to come to the table? And then for the people who are actually sitting at the table, have you looked beside yourself at that table and seen that there's somebody missing or an identity missing or somebody not able to reach there? It is also your responsibility as well to make sure that those folks get there. So yeah, let's pull each other up and get to the table.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you again for being here, Dr. Shanea Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, so we'll go ahead and let you reclaim the rest of your day. Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of TEDx Mellon Street Live. Once again, I'm your host and curator, Sacha Walton, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the other side of this live, this podcast, but then also on November 18th at the American Theater in Hampton, Virginia for the TEDx Mellon Street. So on that note, everybody, y'all have a wonderful day, and we'll be back again with another episode. See you soon.
Thank you.